OG and the Knicks, they look good. They won their game last night. Big game, too. For him to have his debut and go
beat the number one team in the West.
Beat the number one team in the West. The team that's been playing the best basketball right now, the Minnesota Timberwolves. That's an impressive debut.
People talk about what his impact would be with like Jalen Brunson, but it looked like it really impacted Julius Randle at 39 points.
Yeah.
So OG's maybe could spread the floor.
It's provided clarity for them, right? There's like less balls now. You know what I mean? There's less ball takers, ball shooters. We have, RJ, who's a good player, but he's a scorer. Every time he gets it, that ball, he's looking to put in the basket.
Right.
Emmanuel Quickly's not coming in the game to get an assist. Not that he can't, because he actually has a really good read on lobs and weak side passing, but he's a scorer. You know what I mean? So sometimes there can be too many chefs in the kitchen. And what we've seen right now is Jalen Brunson has definitely reached the status of like their go-to guy along with Julius Randle. They're like their tandem.
Yeah.
I think they doubled down on that. Everybody's been saying, how can the Knicks win, or how good are the Knicks if their two best players are Brunson and Randle? Brunson's really good. Now the narrative's changed. Well, is Brunson on 1A? Is Brunson? That conversation around the Knicks star core continues to be a question amongst the media and fans. Right. But the Knicks have clearly said, no, we actually believe this. We're doubling down on this. We're going to take Jalen. We're going to take Randle. We're going to clear out some of our youth. They got rid of quickly. They got rid of Barrett. Less shooters, less ball handlers. Let's get someone like OG, who doesn't need the ball. He kind of affects the game defensively, offensively. He gets offensive rebounds. They got a lot of those guys.
Tibbs going to love that.
You already have Josh Hart and DiVincenzo out there flying around, getting rebounds, defending. It seems like this team is being tailor-made fit for Thibodeau to coach to his best of his abilities. You see a lot of teams in today's day a lot of organizations build teams around their star player. It seems like in this case, we're getting a mix between them building a team around Brunson and Randle, and also more so this is being built around Thibodeau.
I bet you other coaches wish they had that luxury.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like Thibodeau's he's getting a team put together to best fit his talents as a coach. Guys that he likes. Defensive first, hard-nosed, no complain, don't need the ball in their hands, can hit an open shot, but they're going to scrap. That's kind of like what we're seeing here. I mean, there's going to be lineups with guys like Grimes and OG and DiVincenzo and Hart and Randle and Brunson. I mean, Mitchell, every single one of these, Taj Gibson, for crying out loud, still out there. Like every single guy that they have is like, these are hard, working, hard-nosed guys. And then you have your two scorers. It kind of simplifies things. When Quickly came in, we didn't know whose show it was. Quickly wanted that ball.
You knew when they paid Hart that they weren't going to have the money for Quickly.
Yeah, exactly. That was already a clear indicator that we're going this direction.
Yeah.
So we'll see. You know what I mean? The Knicks are going to be a team that you play in a playoff series. It's going to be tough and physical.
Yeah.
Scoring, does this affect them a little bit? Yeah. Because, sure. Were there a lot of chefs in the kitchen? Yeah, maybe. But sometimes that's nice to have, especially in the playoffs if Brunson's having an off game or if Randall's being guarded well or having an off game. Like you got a guy like Barrett or Quickly who can go for 20. Not that OG can't, but those other guys were more traditional, conventional scorers. OG's been on the trade talk for it seems like every year he's been there.
Yeah.
He's like the main guy. First it was like Portland wanted him. Remember that whole thing? Like he was going to go to Portland. He's part of this trade.
Apparently the Grizzlies last year offered like 5 first-round picks for him or something crazy.
His value is really high.
Yeah.
I'll say this about OG.
Yeah.
His value is very high. I'm interested to see how high. Like I want to see why. I know he's a solid player. I'm not questioning it. I just like the players that RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickly and something. I wouldn't like a second round pick, like for OG and Precious, who's talented as well, actually in his own right. But OG's value in stock has been like skyrocket high since he's got in the league. People saw him and thought maybe he had like Kawhi-esque type stuff. That's just ridiculous. That's not ever going to happen. No offense, he just doesn't have that turn. He don't have a scoring game in terms of like his turnaround game. Like Kawhi's a different menace, man. Right. People are so quick to throw out comparisons. It's like anybody who's skinny and 6'10", they throw out Kevin Durant, and then we're like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like to compare someone to Kawhi is a little premature, especially since OG's not like 21 anymore. He's been in the league for like 4 or 5 years now.
Right.
Who he is now, not saying he can't get better because he can, but
Well, we're going to see him in a cool new role where he's the third best player on a really good team.
That's what I'm saying. We're going to see like really how good he is. You know what I mean? Not that we haven't seen him be a good player in Toronto. We have, but this is a different stage.
Yeah.
I mean, he's on Front Street, Broadway, Madison Square Garden, man. You know what I mean? Like this is as big as the stage gets in basketball. Lakers, Knicks, right?
Yeah.
Now he's there. They've pieced this team together for Tibbs, Brunson, Randall. He's a big part of it. OG. They won their first game versus Minnesota. So, all looks well right now. We'll see how it pans out.
Do you think that they are now, for you, in your eyes, are they the third best team in the East behind Celtics and Bucks? Because they're competing with the Heat, the Sixers. I mean, if you want to throw in the Magic.
Celtics, Bucks are unanimous 1-2, right? We know that. I guess the competition for New York, I think New York is ahead of everybody else in terms of, if we're talking about the third spot, it's just between them and Philly.
Not Miami.
Gosh, I can't leave Miami out.
Right.
Then Miami would be in there too, yeah. It's tough because I'm not the biggest fan of Miami's roster in terms of, competition in the playoffs. But every time we say this, they do that thing that Miami does. And they get the most out of every player. And
like if the Heat and Knicks got into a playoff series tomorrow, I don't know.
If the Heat and Knicks got in a playoff series tomorrow, barring no injuries, everybody's super healthy, and I had to put all my money and my savings on one team, I'd probably go with Miami.
Right, see?
Yeah.
But it's hard for you to put them to third right now in the standings, like in your mind.
Regular season, no, not Miami.
Yeah.
Playoff Miami, I'm putting Miami as probably the third best team in the East.
Yeah.
And they might even give Milwaukee trouble just because there's a mental thing.
Because they historically have.
There's a mental thing there. They've had success versus Milwaukee. Damian changes that because he's a new player. I think that's when Damian's stock will really show why this trade was worth it. I think a lot of people you see what Milwaukee's missing because Drew hurt them. Missing Drew hurts. I mean, you watch it every night. Their perimeter defense is it's rough, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I do think Damian's value will show and glow come playoff time. He'll be able to really you'll see oh, this is why we got him. Right. When they're going in that series versus Heat and Jimmy's in Giannis's head and maybe Giannis is having a game where he looks human and the series. Now you got another captain, bro. You got another guy next to you that can kind of take over and do some big things.
And you have a guy that can close out a game pretty much better than everyone.
He's one of the best closers in NBA history. Yeah. So that's where Damian's value will come. So we'll see. But Boston's clearly the best. After that, Philly, New York, Miami, all three of those teams are kind of fighting. I'll give Philly the edge because they've historically been 3 more consistently than any other team.
Yeah.
And they have the MVP on their team. Right. Out of all 3 teams between New York, Miami, and Philly, the most dominant, best player, clearly, hands down, is on Philly.
And potentially the most improved with Tyrese Maxey.
And you got Tyrese Maxey in there. Yeah. So I'm going Philly 3. I'm going to stamp that. 4-5 is, I'll go New York, then Miami, but playoffs, scoot Miami ahead of just about everybody but Boston. So we'll see.
Are you surprised? Because the Knicks were linked to a lot of different free agents. They were wondering who they were going to pair with Brunson and Randall. It could have been Zach LaVine or Donovan Mitchell was a name that everyone talked about for a little bit. I heard, Karl Anthony Towns or Joel Embiid. Are you a little surprised that they went with OG?
Well, I don't think Zach LaVine fits the MO of the whole Knicks.
Yeah.
Tibbs. Let's just call it for what it is. I don't know how Zach did Zach play under Tibbs in Minnesota already?
I'm not sure.
Be interesting to look into that if he was the coach that kind of got him. I don't want to say got him traded.
Producer says he did.
So that experiment's already been there, and Zach wanted out. Tibbs wanted, remember?
Yeah.
Jimmy Butler and all those, because I think that was a trade, right? Yeah. So that we know that fit's not going to work. Remember, he didn't want Cam Reddish. Remember that? He doesn't like those type of guys. Zach's a little bit more mild-mannered. Not known historically as the best defensive player, but a guy who could put the ball in the basket and gets paid max money to do so. They just got off of RJ Barrett's contract to take on Zach's, who has a whole bunch of years still left. I didn't see that really making sense for them unless it was with this guy, we're winning right now. And I don't think the Knicks can confidently say that. If you add Zach to that team, do they win right now? I don't know. Fit-wise, it's not bad just because you have Brunson, LaVine, Randall. It kind of plugs in nice. I just don't know makeup and game style and play if he fits what Tibbs likes to do and what Tibbs wants and likes and sees in players. Some of those things are things that Zach doesn't have. Zach's great at other things, much greater than, he's one of the better scorers in the NBA. But I don't know if that's the best fit for someone like Tibbs. So I didn't see that happening. I think OG's, you want to talk about fit and scenario, that's about his best case scenario for Tibbs. Like we said, a lot of teams don't, a lot of franchises, organizations don't build around a coach.
Yeah.
It just in the eye test, and again, I can't confirm that. I'm not in their locker room, but from the eye test looking and watching, it looks like that. that it's being tailored around Tibbs. So we'll see where this goes.